There's one thing that we need to really get nailed for this time of year, and this is to ensure that we can get our harvest before the killing frost comes. And these are for all cool season crops. Even though they can make it through a cold, we still want to get as much as we can so we don't have to take care of it, because my goal is to let some of these garden beds rest for next year and rejuvenate, and we're going to start that process now, but we're also going to make sure that we get a full harvest. And this is really all about your fertilization schedule as we come up into our first frost. Well, I'm really looking at like these broccolis. Typically what's happened in the past is the broccolis would grow and then they start to fall a little bit dormant. And so what we're trying to do is get them to where they're going to be forming a head, and it looks, in fact, like we are getting there. I'm not seeing any kind of head yet. Oh, I take that back. Little itty bitty bit. So that means we're right on schedule for this. Now, at the time of this recording, which is probably a couple days before you see it, couple things are going on here. I'm in coastal North Carolina, first of all. We have roughly 4 to 6 weeks before our first frost, so that's how long we have to get these going and get them fed right. Now, I'm going to fertilize and go through my entire schedule on this video, and I want to go ahead before we even get any deeper and say this. I know it's going to look like a lot, but this garden has been grown. Some of these beds, this is the 4th or 5th season that it's grown in. So we have to recharge it somehow. And fertilizer is going to get us going. But for instance, like these 2 beds here, they need to rest for a period of time. So we've got to get those going and get them so that they can be harvested, and then we can let them rest, because our planting season will come back in February. So we don't have a whole lot of time. By the time we harvest and everything, we don't have a lot of time to let them rest. So it's just what you got to do. The other side of it, these Brussels sprouts are doing really good. They're coming to size now, and I've said this in previous video, but just to be clear, and I look at this. I got 1 plant in the past couple of days. Look at how bad that is. My goodness. Let's get these out of here. Stop the damage right now. Man, I just noticed, I'm glad I came out today. I don't have any other ones that are messed up, but if it's on one, I can tell you it's on the others. Add to the list today, we're also going to be doing a treatment of BT at the end. But we want to get these as tall as possible. The height is what I'm convinced determines how many Brussels sprouts you get. So typically around January, we are at this height. So we are way ahead of schedule, which is great. I say that to the weather that we're having, the fertilizer, the water that I've been giving it, all that stuff. I've been pumping some serious water to these plants over the past couple of weeks, because even though it's been cool, it's still been hot. And today, it's, let's see, today is, it's like the last, I don't even know what the date is. It's like the last week in September, and it's gonna be right at 90 degrees. The humidity right now is like 85, 86%. It's kind of miserable, but we want to keep this going. So right now what I've got happening is I've got the garden being watered right now, cooling the roots off, pre-cooling, so that when it starts to get real hot, they can, you know, that doesn't shock them into going into bolt. Okay, so it's important to remember that we're not treating all of the gardens and plants the same. They're all getting a little bit different of a nutrient to an extent. But what we want to do is we want to start with the most important aspect, and we want to feed our soil. Okay, so what I'm using here is a simple, it's plant tone, and this is an organic granular fertilizer. And so key here, and I say this every time, I'm going to continue to say it every time, it takes, when it's warm like this, it takes 2 weeks for it to start to break down and start working. So if you think about that, if we do this now, we will have it working in time for the cold, and it will keep giving it nutrients, and then going through and giving nutrients to the plants as it cools off, lets them grow, all that good stuff. So we're gonna do every single garden bed with this. This is a well-balanced fertilizer. It's, I get it wrong every time probably. This is a 5-3-3. So it has a little bit higher nitrogen, and that's good for this time of year, but that doesn't hurt some of the plants. So this bed in particular that I just did is rutabaga and parsnips. It doesn't need a lot of nitrogen, but it still needs a little bit. So this is enough to keep it going. So let me do the whole bed and then come back and then we'll do step 2. Now that we've got that done, so I always water it in for a couple reasons. One, the organic fertilizer does not activate until it is interacted with the soil, and it has to be moist. So this will kind of help. As of right now, there's so many small plants in here that we can't really scratch the surface of the soil and work it in. So we have to make sure we do this. And also at the same time, we have, because some of these plants are so tightly packed together, we got some fertilizer on the surface of the leaves. And this just ensures that we can go ahead and knock it off. So anything that's of any size, like these rutabagas here, I just kind of give it a little bit more pressure and just knock it off. So we're just gonna make sure we get all that fertilizer off as much as we can, and then get it down. And that makes, and remember, this is all about feeding the soil. Obviously it'll feed the plants as well, but this is what gets the soil going pretty good. Okay, so the next step is this calcium nitrate. So this is a 15.500, and this is something that we want to do. This feeds the plants directly, but most importantly, and this is why I watered first, this will actually break down as soon as the water hits it, and then it will start to feed the plants basically right away. So I didn't really want to water it in now. I want to put it out, you know, as the dews settle, stuff like that. If we don't get any rains in a couple days, which we're supposed to get some rain, we haven't had rain in like a month, so I don't know how that's going to work out. But if we don't get any rain, then I'll come out and water it down. But you can look on the back of the bag and it's got directions. I don't go by the directions. I know that may be kind of surprising to you, but in my experience, when I'm putting in high nitrogen plants, fertilizers, I like to go a little bit light on it. So the first fertilizer, we went pretty heavy. I don't know the measurements. I use a half a coconut shell, but for a 4x8 bed, I put 2 coconut shells in. And then the 3x6, I believe I have, I do a coconut shell for each one of those. But again, it's really hard to over fertilize with those because of the way they break down. So we're gonna add this nitrogen in there, and I'll show you how we do it. You don't have to use this. As a matter of fact, I just found this in my shed. I forgot I had it, but it does work, and it has the benefit of calcium in it. I know at one point I was calcium deficient, which is why I have this. I do have other nitrates that I use. As far as fast acting goes, this is key here. Urea works really good. I'd use a Chilean nitrate, which I have in my shed, which I got last year, which works really good, and we will use that. I'm just trying to get through the fertilizers. Blood meal, though, is a slow acting fertilizer. It takes a while for it to break down, and not to mention that is what brings the raccoons into my garden, so we stopped using that. Okay, so I broke the bag, trying to break it up, so we're coconut shell. Usually what I do is I put it in my fingers and I just sprinkle it out, but I've got this nasty little blister here that I'm trying not to get fertilizer in today, so I figured it'd be a good idea. So we're gonna do a little bit of sprinkling with this, but I'll show you how much I like to use, and you can notice a difference. When it comes to, let's see if I can do this right, just a light sprinkling is all you really need. Nothing super crazy, you know, it gets in there, like I said, it's fast acting, so it's easy to nuke your plants. And if you don't believe me, go watch a video I did earlier in the year, and you can see where I did it with my broccoli when I switched to urea for the first time. So we're gonna skip this bed. Again, it doesn't need any nitrogen, extra nitrogen to it. And then over here, what we'll do is we're gonna spot feed. So the peppers don't need it, but the cabbages absolutely do, right? Because that's what they make, is leaves, and nitrogen makes leaves. So we're just, and I'm actually going to go a little bit heavier here. And then we come over here. We'll do the same for our collards. And then going down the line, we'll do the same. So one coconut shell looks like it's going to do probably about 75% of my garden. So it's just, you just want to see it on the surface. You don't want to do anything super crazy. This is not a time to roast your plants, so be very careful, but this really does make a difference. And what we'll see is you'll start to see the plants green up within days of them starting to break down. So if I watered them today, you would see a deeper, richer green in like 3 or 4 days, which is really fast. So that means it's already started working and it's worked its way through the plant. So that's why we don't put a lot down. It's all fertilized at this point. So key thing with the high nitrate stuff, what I do is, or the first time what I did is I buried it. And what happened was, first of all, I put too much in, but second of all, there was no room for error, because when you bury it, it can't off gas it. Also, all of the nitrogen is getting in. So what I did is I went out and I stirred up the soil and kind of brought it back up to the surface, and that helped things out a lot. With this, all I'm doing is I'm putting it right on the surface so it can off gas, it can get in. It doesn't really, it's not going to be super concentrated. And then by not watering it right away, it'll act as a little bit more slow release, because we're not getting a lot of rain right now. So we are getting heavy dews, which will help, but you can go out there and you can see it on the surface of the soil for a day or two or something like that. So it's not just dissolving right into the garden. The last thing that we're going to do, and we're not doing it today, it'll be in about a week or so. What we want to do is we want to see how the plants are reacting to the nitrogen and make sure, and we're going to be on a pretty tight schedule. So a week or two later, what we'll do is we're going to come in and we're going to inject with our 20-20-20 fertilizer. And that will go to every single bed. Everybody will get it. And it's a well-balanced fertilizer. So it's just an added boost. And that will be what I'm assuming is going to be the final one for the year. If we get into and past our last frost date, it looks like there's going to be a couple weeks without it, and it's the time is up, then we will give it another feeding of something. It would not be the organic fertilizer though. It would only be the nitrate or the liquid fertilizer, whatever is fast acting, we would do that. So it's not a whole lot to it, but you've got to time it out. And the reason why is because we're trying to get these plants to grow, because even though this entire garden is a frost hardy garden at this point, they will still slow their growth in the winter. So you kind of get to a point, at least because I don't get a lot of sun here, as you can tell, we get to a point to where we will slow down, and this will help get it up to speed and keep it going. Not to mention our soil is really tired, and nitrogen is water soluble. That's why we add a lot of nitrogen. Every time I've gotten a soil test done, it always says add a lot of nitrogen. So we just kind of started doing that, and we have high nitrogen feeders. So we're going to keep that going and just keep feeding them and keep them going. And then hopefully when it comes to the frost date, the plan here is to be harvesting broccoli, covering some things, harvesting some lettuce, but not having to really fret about it, and being able to coast through the season with some leftovers, some solid greens or something like that we can harvest, and start putting these beds to rest for a month or two. So right around Christmas time, we'll put these beds to rest as much as we can. And then within a month, we'll be waking them back up. And at the time we put them to rest, we will be mulching them and fertilizing them with organic fertilizer so it can sit in the soil and have plenty of time to break down and recharge.
Good.